This week's Pillow Talk is about communication. It's what women wish men knew about sex and love and intimacy, and what men wish they knew about women in regards to sex, love, and intimacy. Apparently there's a communication breakdown. Either people are not talking, or they're talking and they feel like they're not being listened to. Good talking to you. Good talk. Hey guys, it's Jaime, and welcome to the second edition of Pillow Talk. Thank you for being here with me. Tonight's episode of Pillow Talk addresses intimacy and lack thereof. It talks about what women wish men knew in regards to intimacy, love, and sex, and what men wish they knew about women in regards to intimacy, love, and sex. There seems to be a disconnect somewhere. So I set out to try to figure out where and see if we can't bring those wires a little closer together. I reached out to you guys on social media and I said, hey guys, here's what I'm thinking. Send me your comments, questions, thoughts. And a lot of you did. A lot more than the first time, which tells me that you either watched the first one or feeling a little braver now, or this specific topic hits close to home. So let's jump right in. It appears that the number one thing that women want men to know is to take one of my loyal commenters' sentiment. She said, women are like ovens. They need to be preheated. Men are like microwaves, ready to go at a moment's notice. Now, I don't think that's 100% true as we get a little older, but if you're dating a guy in his 20s or 30s, certainly they most of them are ready to go at a moment's notice. But the truth is this: we are the takers in sex, women. We are the receivers. And we need to be ready. If we're not, it hurts. Like, I'm just gonna cut through all the bullshit. It hurts. It hurts. When she's wiggling away from you on the bed, crawling for the headboard, that's not because it's awesome. It's because it hurts and she's trying to get away from you. Women's bodies will naturally lubricate with the right attention. But without the right attention, they won't. And it's sort of like trying to stick a hot dog into a thimble. It just doesn't work right. So women would really like men to understand that it takes a little while to get us going. The best part about women is if you get us going, we're gone. We're in. We're happy to be there. Everything's working, all systems a go, it's happening. It just takes a little more effort. The other thing is, when you're young, right? We're all young and we go, ooh, what base did you get? Ooh, did you get the second base? You know, supposedly the bases are what? French kissing is first base, touching boobies is second base, anything below the pants is third base, and fourth base is home. Well, guess what? When you're 38, there are a lot more bases. There's like 6 bases in between each base. When men want to be intimate and they kiss you and then immediately shove their hand down your pants, you're like, wow, really? Okay, so that's what's happening? That is not sexy time. That is not sexy time for any female, or the majority of. I mean, I have to speak in generalizations to some degree. I know that there will always be people who differ. For example, me. I can have sex without my heart attached. I can have great sex without my heart attached. There are women who need to be fully emotionally invested in the person they're sleeping with. That is not me. But I understand that the majority of women do feel that way. Men, if you are watching, understand that the more time you put into preheating her oven, the better she will cook. Know that. Another anonymous says, what women really want men to know is that 3 things need to be aligned: her head, her heart, and her lady parts. And I love that. I thought that is That brings me to, somebody else wrote in and said, Jamie, if only my man would understand that basically the way he treats me throughout the day is the way I will treat him at night. I had a friend one time that would talk to me about her husband, and I would go, oh, I'm so jealous. He wants to have sex with you every day. That must be amazing. And she was like, really? Because he does nothing around the house. Nothing. Comes home from work, sits on the couch, drinking beer until it's time for dinner, and then he sits there and watches ESPN sports highlights while I wrestle 3 kids into the bath, into their pajamas, into bed, and then he comes upstairs, kisses his kids, and then literally thinks I want to have sex. And I'm like, don't you? And she was like, no. If you are going to ignore me and leave me alone to be a single mom all day, and then think that I am then your porn star come 8 o'clock because the kids are asleep, you have another thing coming to you. If you are kissing your wife throughout the day, if you are texting her at lunch just to let her know you're thinking about her, if you text her on the way home from work and say, do we need milk? Do we need anything from the store? Is there anything I can do? If you just make that effort, you will have a very different wife come 8 o'clock. If you keep doing what you're doing in any part of your relationship, the bedroom included, you are going to keep getting what you're getting. I think the fear of ruffling our partner's feathers or making them feel perhaps like they're not enough for us is where the disconnect comes in on sexual communication. The truth is, many of us would rather stay quiet and suffer in silence than say what's on our mind. A lot of us feel embarrassed. There are so many of you that wrote me and said I could never comment on pillow talk because for some reason, although we know everybody has sex, it's still such a taboo thing to talk about. It's like, don't talk about the sex. Don't talk about the sex. So many of you say you want to use sex toys, but you're terrified to introduce them to your partner because you're afraid what? That he'll feel slighted? That he'll feel less than because you want to introduce something new? How will you know until you try? I have a couple of things on the sex toys. One, I think sex toys are great. I am still a kid at heart in that I think all toys are great. So the more the merrier. First and foremost, if you're into sex toys or you want to try them, the first time to try it is not with your partner. You need to sort of have a grasp of what the toy is and what it does and how to use it and how it makes you feel so that if you're bringing it into the bedroom, you know, and you can be sort of authoritative on it and you can show him how you like to use it. And some of you go, oh, he'll be mad. If he's mad because you're using sex toys, honestly, this pillow talk isn't going to help you. I got nothing on that. The other thing is I wanted to suggest something that works for me. And I've talked about it in coffee talk, and I think we can apply it to pillow talk. A lot of men, as you saw with the opening of this pillow talk, are not audio learners. We tell them what we want or tell them what we need, and we feel like they're not getting it, right? Most men are visual. They're visual in what turns them on. They're visual in how they learn. They're visual in how they're stimulated, which is why men like porn and nudie magazines and why they don't notice your haircut, but they do notice when your boobies are pushed up to your chin because men are visual, right? If you want to communicate something about sex, love, or intimacy with your partner, and you feel like you've told him over and over, I need you to help me out more with the kids and during the day, and I'll be a different wife for you at night. If you feel like you've had that conversation 1,000 times and he's not getting it, or if you've said to your husband, I really like when we have oral sex and you use your fingers at the same time, but he's not like getting it, try this, an intimacy journal, where the agreement is you will not, unless both parties agree, confront the other one about the subject matter in the journal. You will only write back and forth to each other. And again, I've talked about this in coffee talk. So you write, Dear Lovey, I've asked you, I would really like if you would try this. I really want to do it. I've mentioned it a few times. You haven't done it, and I'd really like to try it. Leave the journal for him. He reads it and then either does it or writes you back. Dear honey, I am actually not comfortable with that. So I've heard you mention it a few times, but the reason I've ignored you is because it isn't something I want to try. I think sometimes taking the awkwardness of the confrontation out and being able to write it so that you have time to think about it, process it, and respond is a much healthier way to get the dialogue going. That's just me. Which leads me to a funny story I want to tell you. I like to title it, Is Everyone Having Anal Without Me? I know what you're thinking. Hold on. When I was young, a wise woman in my life said, listen, kiddo, I know you're not going to be a virgin when you get married, so I want you to take a few things and save them for your husband. And I was like, what do you mean? Like money? What? Save what? And she was like, no, I want you to take a few things in the bedroom and don't do them with anyone else. Pick 3 things and just save them. One day, years from now, you will get married and you will be thankful that you saved a few things. So I thought about it and thought, okay, what 3 things do I not ever want to do? So I took a few things, I wrote them down in my diary, and I swore I would never do them till I got married. I get married. And one of the things is anal sex, right? So I get married, and somewhere down the line in my marriage, I say to Michael, hey, I got this thing in my back pocket, never tried it, was thinking maybe we're married, we could try it, whatever. And he was like, nah, I don't want to. What? So I'm going to die the only person in the world who's never even tried it? Like, I legit am going to be married to you for the rest of my life and I'm never going to get to try this? I'm going to die. I'm going to be the only girl who never gets to try it. Which leads me to this. Compromise. Sexual compromise is so important in a marriage, in a relationship, in a partnership. There may be things that are outside your comfort zone. Sexting, dirty talk, role play, anal sex, whatever. You have to be open-minded. I'm not saying you've got to do it all. I'm just saying you can't make the person you're with feel like they need to be ashamed for the things they're suggesting, or they're not going to talk to you. Communication is about honesty, it's about openness, and it's about making the person feel like they're being heard. So if there is something that your significant other wants to try, and they find the courage to come to you and go, hey, I want to give this a try, find a way to meet them halfway. If it really isn't something you're comfortable doing, find an alternative. Find a variation of it. And go, look, I'm not willing to go all the way, but I'll meet you halfway. Why don't we start with this? Because more times than not, when it comes to anything in the bedroom, you just kind of got to get started. And then once you get started, it's pretty easy to finish. I know I couldn't get to everybody's comment or everybody's question, but I just want to thank you again so much for being here with me and continuing to grow with me in trying to have open, honest conversations about the fact that we are all indeed a work in progress. I love you so much. Have a great night.